Hey, it's showtime. We're live. Welcome. I'm Dr. Alex Barker, founder and CEO of The Happy Webinar. We will be talking about how to create and complete your 2023 career goals. If you're here watching live, welcome. Nice to see you. Let me know in the chat where you're from in the United States or Canada or outside. Great to have you here with us. Let me know. And I would love to know, where are you practicing pharmacy? That also is helpful for me. Tonight, we're going to be sharing wisdom and lessons that we've learned from our research in career development and positive psychology, sharing what we've seen people repeatedly do over and over again as they develop their careers. So I'm very excited to chat with you. Ho ho! And that's the timer to start. Left that on, didn't I? We're good now. Okay, seeing a few people chime in here. Very cool. Nice to see you. Again, if you're here live, welcome. If you're watching this in the future, hello, future. Good to see you. Hey, Mariana. Oh, thank you. Very cool. Hell. I'm taking that means hello, not, the negative there. Tonight, we're going to be sharing our lessons, and I'm excited to hear from you what you want from this year. Last year was a weird year for me. A lot of odd things happened, things I didn't anticipate, and some surprises and some catastrophes. But despite all of that, it's been journey before destination. And we're going to talk about that tonight. So I'm going to do a little bit of finagling here. Hey, can you see my screen? I think you can. So I do want to give some credit where credit's due. Laura LaCarey, who is one of our career coaches at the Happy PharmD, helped me develop some of this content, and got to give credit where credit is due. So with that, let's jump in. I'd love to hear from you in the chat. What has been your most satisfied moment, achievement, or task in your job or your career? This could have been from when you were in pharmacy school. Heck, it could be before that when you were working at Burger King like I was. I did not have any satisfying moments at Burger King. Perhaps catching someone spit in a Whopper was pretty satisfying, and stopping them. That was good. But, other than that, not much else happened at Burger King. I'd like you to take a moment, and if you're watching this future, pause it here and really ask yourself, what's been the most satisfying moment? If you're watching live, please share. I'd love to hear it in the chat. What's been your most satisfying moment? It could have been just 15 seconds, or it could be a huge project that took you maybe months, if not years, to develop. And a sharing here. Yep, sorry. Yeah, that was that moment at Burger King. Solidified in me, I'm not going to stay here. Well, I would ask you to share throughout this presentation if it comes to mind later. But my hope is, my earnest prayer for you is that there's something that has been satisfying. There's a time, a patient that you've helped that truly has made all the difference for you. When it happened, it was like, wow, that was great. That was amazing. I wish every day was like that. Lisa shared, surviving the time when retail pharmacists had to start vaccinating. Yeah, surviving, getting through that. It was a pandemic, and I'm glad it's over. whatever your most satisfying moment was, there's a hint in those moments that highlight what is perhaps the best direction to lead yourself into your career. And where this comes from, work in positive psychology. When I started the Happy PharmD in 2017, I had about 6 years of coaching experience under my belt. And I learned a lot of tactics and tricks, but I never really focused fully on careers, let alone pharmacists. And in the world of psychology, this has been understudy now for well over 40 years. And they have really narrowed down the science behind what makes us happy, what makes us fulfilled, and really what can make 2023 our best year ever. And it comes down to what they like to call PERMA. It's 5 components, and we'll talk about those in just a second, that help make life worth living, and how to define it and quantify it, which is something I don't think you as a pharmacist or as a person should really consider doing yourself, like measuring how satisfied you are with your work, your life, your marriage, from a scientific standpoint. In fact, at the end of our webinar, I want to give you an opportunity to check out our really comprehensive resource called the Happy PharmD Year, where we go very in depth into multiple aspects of your life, asking you questions and reflections to help you guide you in this year. But I think it's a good starting point for helping you create goals for a compelling 2020. I'm just looking at the chat here. I'm going to go back to that in a second. So according to their research, they've narrowed down 5 components that help people pursue a life worth living because they are intrinsically motivated. They come from within. You don't have to try with these things. You don't have to muster the motivation for them. They just are. Kind of like how the wind just is. It always will be there. It may come and go, but it is. And according to the research, those 5 things are positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and achievement. And so a couple of things here. Jennifer shared receiving approval for an IND to get a patient niche medicine from the WHO, World Health Organization. Something in that for you, Jennifer, was related to one of these 5. This is fun. This is messing with my brain because it's opposite for me. It should be over here. You probably felt elated, Jennifer. I don't know. You probably felt pleased. Maybe you had a relationship with this patient. There was meaning there. Maybe it felt like a minor achievement or big achievement for you. I don't know. And while we don't have this published yet, we will, but not yet. According to our research, this very in-depth survey that we have done, that maybe you have taken if you've followed us long enough, we have found that the 2 most important things when it comes to pharmacists and their work are relationships and the soft skills they use with those relationships. So the soft skills are the things like communication, your leadership ability, empathy, compassion, conflict resolution. Those are the most meaningful things, most important things in what we do. And this is true for almost regardless any career path, whether it's retail, hospital, pharma, academia, leadership, you name it. It's those 2 over and over again. If you want a compelling career goal or whatever you want to call it, resolution, I don't like that word. It has to have these two things: relationships and the soft skills that you use to achieve your work. If it doesn't include the things that you're naturally gifted at, your ability to communicate, your ability to write, the things that you probably didn't learn in pharmacy school, but maybe utilized, they are the things that create meaning, the most meaning for you. PERMA here, these these five aspects, is that each of them are significantly associated with physical health. So you're all around general ability and mental health as well. Your vitality, so your gusto with how you do work, your longevity, just in for your age in general, job and life satisfaction, and a commitment to organization. So those leaders out there listening, the more you incorporate these aspects to your work environment, the more likely people are going to be on board for where the ship is going. Just a few more reflections here I'm seeing in the chat from Yusuf here. My most satisfying moment was achieving one of the highest attendance rates at the National Patient Counseling Competition. Congratulations as APHA and NCP. Did you put that alphabet soup there on purpose for me? APHA NPCC co-chair. Congratulations. I bet that was a lot of work behind the scenes. I bet a lot of people helped you, Yusuf, to achieve that outcome. And I could almost guarantee, without knowing you at all, Yusuf, that you have some soft skills related to be able to achieve such an accomplishment. And I'm sure all of those things brought not just job satisfaction, but joy outside of that as well. You know, the Happy PharmD, I kind of named from like a bold standpoint because it seemed at the time so much of our culture is filled with frustration, and to a certain extent still is. But perhaps a more poignant name would have been the Joyful Pharmacist, because happiness comes and goes. And we're going to talk about that as we pursue our career goals. But joy is something that lasts. It's something that sticks with you, kind of like maple sap. If you ever climbed trees as a kid, like it doesn't matter what you do, it's going to stick to your hand as long as you exist. So these things, these PERMA components should be at the heart of what your goals are for this year. Even if it's something, let's say, generic, like I want to get a new job, or I want to write a book, or heck, I want to lose weight. Because at the heart of these things, if what is not motivating you is present, it won't last. You won't push through when your motivation is low. And we're going to talk about what happens, what you should do when that happens. But a question I encourage you to take later is, what PERMA aspects are missing from your current job, perhaps? If you're in a really great position, but maybe you're missing something, it could be a relationship. It could be some tied to meeting for your patients or your colleagues, or maybe there's an achievement that you want to work on. Then I think a great question to ask is, how could you increase that? What connection within your organization could give you an opportunity? When I was a burned out pharmacist and I was dealing with burnout, there was one really great relationship I had. Her name was Mary Ann, and she made me feel like I'm not going insane. She wasn't in the pharmacy department. She was a part of kind of like she was an advocate, I believe at the time. And we just had great conversations, and being able to talk to her about work, getting an unbiased approach, that relationship, which again is a part of PERMA, helped me create a little bit more meaning behind what I did. It helped me to see past my immediate barriers to success. And it helped me, I think, create a better work environment for myself. I'm seeing a couple comments here. I'm seeing a few questions outside of what we're talking about today, but we'll talk about those. So going back to the point, your career goals at the heart of this should be focused on these things. And the great thing about it is if you can identify what you need more of, it can do wonders for you if you're looking for a new job. If you feel like you want more engagement from your work, then all of a sudden you get curious about how do you do that? How do you find a company where you can actually be engaged? What makes you the most engaged when you're working? The goal here isn't to perhaps do, I don't know, less work or less challenging work, because sometimes the greatest fulfillment we can get from our work is when we are challenged and we overcome it despite odds. And so when you get curious about one of these things and you ask yourself harder questions about what you want from your work, you can begin to put together goals that really match what motivate you intrinsically. We talked about that briefly before, right? The things that make you, you, no matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you're in front of perhaps the president of the United States, or you're in front of your patient that you saw yesterday. The things that make you, you will stand out. And if you can identify in PERMA those core aspects as a guiding principle for what you should focus on in 2023. So your action step from this webinar is going to be about what is different, new, or removed in your career by the end of this year. An old adage that a mentor of mine beat into my head when I was in rotation is think with the end in mind. You know, sometimes we get so caught up in the day-to-day, and I think a lot of people get stuck with career development thinking, I need to look outside of myself. I need to get a better job. In fact, one of my first pharmacists that I worked with when I was doing their career coaching, one of them was fixated on this idea of getting out of their retail pharmacist job. They didn't like their manager, and we started to work on developing a real true career development plan about what did an ideal career look like and what kind of work were you doing. And as he was sharing all these things, I actually picked up something. I actually picked up, oh, you actually like what you do. Yeah, I love my patients. I love helping them. It's perhaps like the best part of the job. It isn't all the technical stuff. It isn't the goals, the metrics. It's working with people, and I love it. And I said, okay, well, then why not stay there? Well, and it became this discovery that he was holding on to some negative perspectives about his boss. He was holding a grudge against her. And by coaching him through this process of really conflict resolution, he was able to talk with his manager and resolve the issue. And within a few months later, he was promoted to a special like clinical coordinating position within this retail chain. And he loves what he does. I think he still is at that job and he still loves what he does. By the end of this year, what would be new or different that you would love to see? I'd love to hear from you in the chat. What could be new? What could be different? or what could be removed from your work that would give you more perma, that would give you more meaning from your work? I'll try to go to some of these in the chat. Going further on this topic, I think it's easy to look ahead, and maybe for some of you, you're like, I'm gonna get back in the gym. And it's what, January 10th? And you've already perhaps fallen off the bandwagon. Hey, I've been there. One of my kind of arbitrary goals is to walk 10,000 steps a day on this desk treadmill that I have right next to me. I've already missed 4 days out of the work days that I've worked so far. Happen. But rather than doubting yourself, I'd like you to believe for a moment, what if everything went right? What if everything this year, everything that you had hoped for, everything that you had dreamed goes correctly? How would your ideal career influence your family, your health, and relationships? What would come from that? What would change? I'm reminded of a gal pharmacist who told me about how she now has the energy to be a soccer mom. I don't think I have that kind of energy. Because those can get aggressive. I'm a little bit more laid back when it comes to sports, probably because I wasn't good at them as a kid. But if everything were to go right this year, what would be different about those things? We all talk about, we know what's most important: family, love. But it's so easy for work to get in the way of that, isn't it? It's so easy to become fixated on what we want, and to sadly lose out on the things and the moments that mean so much to us. An example here from actually someone who had worked with us was that my family notices I'm home on time, but we won't buy that new car in 2023. Tim Olbrich and I, founder of Your Financial Pharmacist, actually did a podcast interview this morning. We talked about this concept of balancing our financial wants and needs and desires with what we want to do with our careers. And sometimes it's hard because maybe we're fixated on getting something new or buying something big, or paying off debt. And in exchange for that, perhaps we sacrifice happiness or joy because we take a job that's going to pay us more, but ultimately at the end of the day, it may be shortening our lifespan. Another question for you to ponder as you think about your goals for this year is, what do you wish to accomplish 1 year from now? If I have the distinct pleasure of talking with you on a Zoom call or a phone call, a question I ask in my little calendar app, where it says like, hey, fill out your name, your email and phone number. And a question is, if we meet 1 year from now and we're celebrating over a bottle of wine, what are we celebrating together? And I love reading their answers because it's an immediate talking point for when we get to chat. And I've heard everything from, I've moved to Brazil, I've published a book, I'm on the TED stage, I've left my job, I've gotten a promotion, we've had a baby. And these are the things that create meaning for us, both in and outside of work. But they're important to consider because, I mean, I'd be a fool to say as a founder of a career coach company that work is the most important thing. It certainly is important, as it's what we do for the majority of our lives. And yet it doesn't compare. If my wife is in trouble or my kids and they need my help, I'm dropping everything. I'm stopping it all to be there for them. I think We all want that as pharmacists. I haven't met a single one that would say the opposite. Although if you do, love to meet you. You'd be a very interesting pharmacist. So whether you've thought about it now about what you want to do this year, or you maybe want to think about reconsidering it, how do you get there? There's so much to do. And gosh, you've got 350 some odd days left to get it done. That's a lot of work. How are you going to do it? Well, if you're like me and you say, I'm going to walk 10,000 steps every day that I work, but then you mess up in the first few days, what can you rely on? Well, we go back to that intrinsic motivation that we talked about earlier. We talked about this something that is within you that you can't change, that you can't really influence because it's your makeup. Or your even maybe your beliefs, philosophical, religious, scientific. These things make you you. There's this concept in psychology that talks about motivation and willpower. Motivation being the thing that gets you up and goes to do something hard, while willpower is being the force that moves you through it. And as you can see here on this graph, that the higher the motivation is to do something, the less willpower it takes to get through it. Whereas the lower motivation it takes something, the higher willpower it takes. And James Clear in his book, Atomic Habits, talks about this concept in greater detail, and I recommend the book, that one of the easiest ways to do hard things is to make it stupidly simple, make it so easy, make it repeatable. And to quote a friend of mine, Steve, make it so easy that you feel kind of stupid for not doing it. So, and I've talked about this before in various places, but one of the things that I do to stay physically active is do 1 push-up a day. Just 1. Because if I'm in bed in a couple of hours, I've already done my push-ups today, so I'm fine. But if I haven't, and it's 11:30 and I want to go to sleep and I'm reading some manga as I normally do, and then I think to myself, shoot, I didn't do this. I didn't do my push-up. Well, I get out of bed and I do 1 push-up, and then I go to bed, knowing full well that I've had the willpower to do it. Even though I don't have the high motivation, I've got the willpower to do 1 because 1 is easy. And as I built up that habit of doing 1 push-up, well, hey, now that I'm on the ground, I'm actually doing 1. I may as well do 2. Oh, come on. You're no wimp. Do 3. Okay, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 is the most I've ever done because I really hate that feeling of tension after you do too many push-ups. But the point is not to do 100 or break some record for me. It's to just stay physically active, somewhat physically fit, and to build a habit of consistency. So on those days when I'm low motivation, I can go, oh yeah, I'm just doing 1 simple step in my extremely busy day with 1,000,001 priorities. So my question for you is, what would a successful month look like if you took 1 small action step towards your end goal? If it's something like a new job, maybe you have the daunting task of revamping a resume or writing a cover letter. You don't have to do it all in one setting or keep procrastinating doing that. You could write 1 sentence at a time. Yeah, it may be bad, but you're getting it done. I have a friend, Azul Torres, who's the founder of Authors Who Lead and publishing company. And he has often reminded me that a book is written one word at a time. It isn't written usually in a long writing stint. Our ability to be motivated high for big, I'm getting too excited here. Sorry. Our ability to be excited, motivated to do hard things can only last for so long. And so if we are able to break down our big goals, our big habits, the things we want to do into small action steps, we make it that much easier, that much simpler to move forward towards what we want to achieve. I'd love to hear from you in the chat. What's a small action step that you can take towards your end goal? You know, I think this is probably perhaps the best place to stop on, because if you can get obsessed about doing one small thing, if it's a new job, maybe it's networking that you want to focus on. And so that's sending one text message a day. According to the research, for a referral or a recommendation for a job is within your secondary network. It's not who you know, it's your network who knows people. And so sending out messages once a day, that's easy. That's writing 20, 30 words. And heck, it could be the same message that you sent yesterday. This doesn't have to be hard. I think because we're so overburdened with decisions in our day jobs, we get overburdened by decision fatigue. And the idea of the things that we want to accomplish becomes so heavy. They become so laden with guilt, shame. I haven't done this. I haven't done that. I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have done that. I don't have time. I don't have the energy. And it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to always be so high in motivation. You don't need to be anyone but yourself. You don't need to be me. You don't need to be some influencer that's on LinkedIn talking about how amazing they are, how many offers they've turned down. That's not you. And to be someone who you're not, well, is a travesty amongst yourself. And so my encouragement to you for this year, whatever your goal is to not feel overwhelmed, but to believe that journey is before destination. And that going through this current battle will it'll end up in a better place. Because you can either believe that tomorrow will be worse, or you can move forward and believe that it can be better. Thanks for hanging out with me in this session about how to create and complete your career goals. This has been fun because I'm sometimes too deep in this stuff. And it's nice to take a high level overview of things to kind of get above the water and be like, what is everyone else dealing with? What's everyone else seeing? And after talking with, 24 pharmacists on the issue, I think people get really overwhelmed with the things they want to do. But if we can all just calm down, that's the worst thing to say to someone who's like freaking out, right? My wife has told me that many times. Don't tell me to calm down. I'm not calm. If we could all just chill and recognize that Rome isn't built in a day. You can't eat an elephant all at once, right? One bite at a time. And by breaking this down, we can have fun doing it. We can have a blast knowing that we're helping people, we're practicing what we love. We get to make a difference in the world with what we do. If you have any questions, feel free to write here. In the chat, I can click some things and then show them on the screen. If you want that resource, it looks like I don't have a link to it right now, which is okay. But send me a message, preferably on LinkedIn, or type in something on YouTube. And I'd love to send you our the Happy Farm D year. Or no, is it? No, it's your Happy Farm D year. It is a comprehensive guide that asks you really in-depth questions about what you accomplished last year and what you want to do this year. And it focuses on things like your career, of course, because that's what we're all about. We help people get jobs they love, as well as your finances, your health, and your relationships. Because from our point of view, these are the most important things in our life. It's what we live and breathe for. Maybe not so much money, but in order to be with the people we love, we need money, don't we? So if you comment on YouTube or if you're on LinkedIn or somewhere else, just say, I'd love the year guide. You can call it whatever you want. We'd be happy to send you a link to that. And I would rather, in my mind, have a conversation. I'd hate to put someone on the spotlight in something like this, but I would love to be able to just talk to you and ask you questions about what do you want from this year? What would you love to see would make this your best year ever? There's something about helping people achieve what they love. And I love that. I mean, that's what I get to do day in and day out. So again, thank you to my team who's helping me produce. Ray, thank you for your support. Laura, thank you for helping me with this presentation and summarizing some way too much information into simple action steps. Thank you so much to everyone. And if you are a pharmacist and you want to be able to do work that you love, or if you have no clue what you can do as a pharmacist and what kind of work that you would love to do, you're talking to the expert here. You're talking to the founder of the Happy Farm D. We have a team of career advisors that would love to talk to you and find out what it is that you love to do and what kind of career path you're looking for in pharmacy. This is what our coaches specialize in. Our pharmacists are career coaches and pharmacists. They practice in fields. We've got like over 150 years of pharmacy experience and about 30 years of career coaching experience. And this is what we love to do. We love seeing pharmacists be proud to be a pharmacist, to be actually be able to brag at parties when they hang out with friends. I love what I do. I get to help people and I get to do it in such a way that I never could before. It is such a privilege. Thank you for those of you who watched this tonight. And I hope you have a great rest of your 2023. Thanks again.